Hello and welcome to this episode of the Mongrel Court. We're trying something a bit new tonight, or today. And the topic of discussion was kind of just something that I decided to come up with today, pretty much. I did have plans on doing a discussion on other points, but I came to the realization that there's been a lot of negativity that's been going on with Star Citizen. And yeah, I kind of want to focus on something a little bit more positive, talk about something different other than the same thing that we've been dealing with the last couple of weeks. So for this one, we're doing something a little bit different. We're stealing a page out of Salty Mike's book with his Answer the Call. And what we're doing for this episode of the Mongrel Court is we're doing an audience call-in. So if you guys are already on the Mongrel Squad public Gilded server, you would see a channel in the verified guest server group called the... what do I call it? The Mongrel Court caller audience sign up or something along those lines. You see it there. There's a message, react to it, you'll get assigned a role, and then you're essentially put into a queue to jump on the Mongrel Court and talk about the topic of discussion. So, yes, as I said before, we're looking at 4.0. We're looking forward and looking at Pyro 4.0, but I kind of I don't want to focus on the new stuff, the big ticket items like, server meshing, everybody knows about that. Quantum, everybody knows about that. I wanted to kind of drill down into individuals' expectations, like, what do you expect salvaging to be? How do you expect salvaging to be working by that stage? Should we be able to pull out ship components and things like that? Like, what will piracy be like? What will refueling be like? What other gameplay or game systems do you expect to be in the game by the time we get that 4.0 and Pyro and it starts expanding out? So, what I'll do is I'll get our first guest to jump into the talking channel. I'm going to transition to the next scene right here. Now, this is all a bit new. It's all a bit new, so we're kind of getting used to this. The first guest is Warhead. You might know him. He's a long-standing member of Mongrel Squad. And I'm just giving him a quick notification. He could be a bit busy at the moment, though. I'm just seeing if he can actually join the voice channel, because he should be able to, but if not, then I'm going to mess around with Gilded's permission system, because it is... Yep, I'm going to mess around with Gilded's permission system. Alright. Let's see how this goes. Try now. Still locked out? Alright, we're going for a backup plan. I'm going to quickly clone a channel. Because I had a streaming channel set up for this. I'm going to jump into a different channel. Hello.
Hey, thanks.
There we go. No, I could not move him myself, unfortunately, there, Blake. Technical difficulties, we're still working on this. It's all new, and I'm kind of being a one-man band at the moment. Alright, well, Warhead. Thank you for coming along, mate. And you're literally the first guest for the audience call-in, so, you know, I would say there's a prize, but I didn't even think of it that far. I didn't even have the previous voice channel working for us, so, you know, shows how much prepared we were here. But, mate, what are your 4.0? Right? Yeah, that's right. What are your 4.0 / Pyro expectations?
So I want Pyro to be Mad Max. Like everyone's fighting for fuel. You know, cargo is crazy expensive to acquire, and then also really valuable to get in.
Just holding on there for a second, Warhead. For some reason, your audio is coming in through garbled. I'm just going to restart. Go ahead again.
Is that any better?
No, it's not. Apparently not. Let me try something. Next thing. I'm gonna up the bit rate for the channel. The irony is that I cloned a channel that Warhead and I were talking in less than 5 minutes before the stream started, and it was perfectly fine. Alright, try again.
How's this? Is this any better?
I'm still getting this static. Let me try refreshing Gilded yourself, because this was a clone channel, so it might be causing issues.
There we go. Is that any better?
Yes, and you also sound like you got a lot deeper voice, but I'm pretty sure that's just Gilded's memory compression.
So I really want Pyro to be kind of like a Mad Max experience, where, you know, it's just a wasteland. There's you know, the getting cargo in is really valuable. Taking cargo out, if it's, you know, super rare stuff, might also be valuable. Fuel is hard to come by. Would be nice if they got where you can take fuel out of ships. I don't know. In my mind, I see Pyro as Mad Max. It's just a wasteland.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Gilded. You was fine for about a minute, and then it just started messing up. We'll fight through this, and we'll continue this going, because I'm pretty sure it's just Gilded going up and down. Mad Max, you say? Like, I'm kind of expecting that vibe, really, especially on which moon? Like, they're all desolate, but I'm pretty sure like one of the moons there is similar in composition to what Daymar is. So, you know, like, kind of the way I always look at Mad Max, because Mad Max's thing was always about focusing on ground vehicles and, you know, driving and fighting over resources, you know, all the limited resources and stuff like that. Which I think for Pyro makes a lot of sense. Like, they don't have the manufacturing facilities and that. Like, what sort of gameplay, like, elements are you expecting to add or be added to, you know, 4.0 / Pyro?
I would really like to see improvements to refueling, where they could take fuel out of ships. Improvements to salvage, where you could take components out of ships. I say improvements, I guess the next tier, right? It would be nice also, given that everything's so sparse, that you'd be able to repair ships using, you know, your was it the Vulcan? Yeah, and the other types of repair ships that are out there.
You've got
Crucible.
the Crucible, yeah.
But yeah, those extra gameplays. I think a ship like the Liberator would be good. Pyro is supposed to be what 4 times larger or even larger than that than Stanton. So those little fighters aren't going to make it unless they're upgraded, and even then they still might not make it.
Yeah. Like, for me, what I'm expecting, like, gameplay-wise to come out of, like, Pyro, or even just 4.0, is, I'd like to see some more smaller quality of life things, like improving the, survival experience. So that when you get stuck out in the middle of nowhere, it's not like you're just sitting there and it's like, I can either wait 2 hours for somebody to show up and rescue me, or I can, like, try and science my way out of this and, bloody make poo potatoes until, I'm able to fix my ship, and survive off those poo potatoes.
Scrape algae off the walls.
Yeah. And just, like, try and, fix my ship based on, whatever parts I can find around me. That's what I'm really hoping to start seeing. I don't think we'll get that in 4.0, but I'd like to see that, starting to become more of a thing. Because, like, we've got RMC now, and you can do limited repairing with the multi-tool using RMC. So we kind of got something going there already. So, like, whether or not the ship, like, the areas are populated enough in Pyro where you could find other wrecks to be able to pull parts from, like as you mentioned before, the being able to pull ship components out of a ship. Your power plant goes down, you find another power plant and another ship that's kind of sketchy, but it's in better shape than yours. I'd like to see more of that. That sort of direction CIG pushing in and trying to encourage that sort of behavior. So what about, what are your thoughts on, like, you've talked about Mad Max and the whole mindset there. Like, Mad Max was about resource, fighting over resources and controlling resources. If you control the resources, you're able to control the people and you had the power. Where would you like to see, like, where do you start seeing the first steps of that happening in 4.0? Or do you see that happening before we get there? Like, is this going to be something that you think is just going to start becoming more prevalent as we go into, Pyro and 4.0?
I think if CIG tweaked the trade commodities that we've got right now, we could start seeing stuff like that immediately. Make stuff more sparse, put stuff in specific areas, change the timers, increase the values, decrease values, decrease timers, make some adjustments, change the balance of how trade works. We could probably see that in a couple of months before Pyro. But they would have to make drastic changes to how trading works for that to take place. And then also, if they started making it to where, I think they did it at one point in time, where you could only buy like so many missiles from a station, and this station would be out of missiles. If they started doing that, where a trade system came up where you need X, Y, Z components for the station to create missiles or ammo, or to repair your ship, and it doesn't get those trade items, the value goes up, but the cost of repair and refuel and rearm goes up as well. And it gives people a reason to move those items around. Stuff like that would also increase the control players have.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, like, Star Citizen is supposed to be the economy. That's what you're leaning into there a bit. And we are supposed to be getting quantum once we get server meshing, whether or not it's like a tier 0 of quantum, which, you know, would more than... Technically, we're actually getting the tier 0s of quantum right now. Like, when we got refueling, that's actually... The fuel prices that you're paying for at outposts and rest stops, that's actually being fed from quantum. It's just, you can't really tell the difference because there's supposed to be AI involved moving all the shit around, and you don't see it. Would you... Like, the next tier for quantum, I guess, would like being able to visualize that so that you could actually see the impact that it's happening, or that it's having, expanding, you know, like the building types, the outpost types that you're going to. So, you know, like, it's no longer just mining outposts or research outposts or, you know, like farms. It's like, you know, factories, manufacturing facilities, things of those natures. You won't really see that much in Pyro, but you would see a lot of that in Stanton. Are you expecting that NPCs or players would be the main ones looking to try and exploit those resources? What's your mentality along wanting these particular features?
I definitely want players to be able to manipulate it, right? But I think CIG wanted the whole was it 10-9 ratio for players versus NPCs, so
yeah,
that way they could contain control, or retain control. So that way that, you know, if someone tried to manipulate the market, they could reel it back in by throwing 9 NPCs at that one player to then, you know, fix the market.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want there to be places where there's like no infrastructure. You have to ship in, you know, full components and you know completed missiles and so on and so forth, just so that we, you know, you can rearm stuff and fix things. And then I also want there to be areas where you know they just need the rare components so they can make the stuff. But yeah. I definitely think that's, you know, closer to like a 5.0 than a 4.0 kind of thing.
Are there any like small things that you'd like to see being introduced, like the low-hanging fruit? What's the lowest hanging fruit that you can see that we could put, that CIG could aim to put in for Pyro / 4.0?
So I think a low-hanging fruit that I've heard people talk about it more lately, but I think a low-hanging fruit that would probably be beneficial would be more social interfaces. You know, you know, we've got a mentor system, right? That you could use that as a group finder kind of thing, but instead put a group finder kind of thing in the game, or give orgs more control. You know, if I want someone to be able to use my hammerhead and not want to log in, let me let someone borrow my hammerhead. You know, so just silly things that are social, and it's seem, at least to me, low hanging stuff that's in Spectrum that, you know, that's already there. They've implied they want that stuff to be in game. Put it in game. Give us more social stuff. That seems low hanging, which I can't imagine the elevators will stop working because you added a tab to chat.
Yeah. This is... I'm actually confused because, you know, Star Citizen being an MMO, you would expect it to have more of a focus on the social aspect of it. So better support for the social, you know, interactions. So better chat systems, the orgs, you know, like being a part of an org actually means something. And, you know, like you can represent your org in game, reputation. I know people were talking about in the chat for a minute there. You know, reputation actually meaning something and being able to tie that to not only individuals but also organizations. So, you know, I expect to see a lot of organizations not liking Mongrel Squad. You know, well, maybe the complete opposite. They love us, even though, you know, we're the organization that preys on those types of you know, their type of organization. Who knows? But that seems like, I don't know how low-hanging a fruit it is, but it kind of seems like a no-brainer or something that they should really be aiming to add for the patch where everything is supposed to expand and all the players disperse further apart from each other. So we're all shoved into the same fishbowl, but we've got more gameplay space to move around. It seems to me like there's all, you know, like that should be more about, you know, like trying to make sure that players can connect with each other, and, you know, those who are in organizations are able to connect, get together, share assets. You know, it still blows my mind that we don't have organization banks. I think that, to me, that is an essential asset, especially going into an environment where we have server meshing. Is there anything else that you can think of?
Mad Max and space idea would be that you could force people to go to do resource wars, right? Like if I've got control of the fuel, you've got to go to war with me to get the fuel. And of course you're going to need the fuel because you need control. You know, you got to move your resources around. You've got to move your ships around. You've got to move your people around. So, you know, the more powerful the resource, the better to have control over it. And I think resource wars would be beneficial to PvP gameplay. You know, they could hide those areas that are hard for PvE players by you know, just saying, you know, hey, this place is uncivilized or whatever, and you just avoid it.
No, you know, like there's no security there. You know, like bloody, you're going out into the desert, and if you try and call the police, you don't have cell reception, so it's anything goes type deal.
Yeah. Well, you know, you don't get on the Oregon Trail and not buy guns. You know, you're not going to go and be a pioneer and not expect that you need a knife or a gun. You don't go out into the wilderness and not expect there to be bears and wolves and whatnot. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, what have we been going for? Here we go. All right, Warhead. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with Pyro 4.0? It seems like some of the guests that signed up aren't going to be attending, so you got a little bit more time. Is there anything else that you can think of?
I really would like to see them. I'd like to see them expand on they've talked about these pirate organizations that are going to have control. They've talked about the reputation system that they're going to have in place, but there's not been. I don't know. I don't feel like they've. The reputation system we've got now is, you know, oh, you build up a reputation, they pay you a little bit more. There's not really been legitimate enough rewards.
Yeah,
to do
100%.
that.
What was it? The best that they did was for Xenothreat. Was it Xenothreat where you had to get a certain level and they gave you like exclusive pieces of armor that were attributed to your account, which are fucking, I don't even know where they've gone now. I don't even see them on my account anymore. I don't even care. It's like one of the things that I really want to see is, like, with the reputation system, you need a good enough rep with Ninetales to be able to go to Grim Hex. It shouldn't be a destination where it's like everyone can go there. It's like if you're known to be a bounty hunter in Star Citizen and you try and go to Grim Hex, they just gun you down. They're like, fuck off, we don't want you here. And I think that, like, you know, that to me is like a low-hanging fruit right there.
Yeah. I mean, even it being neutral, right? Like, you know, you don't just ride up on Grim Hex in your little Volkswagen with your kids and expect them not to snarl at you. You know, like even neutral, you should have some fear. Yeah,
no, I 100% agree, and I think like that, to me, that is something that will be like is essential, especially for a system like Pyro. Trying to make that, you know, the impact of going to different places actually mean something. You know, if you go into Pyro, like you should have to mentally prepare yourself if you're not, you know, of the criminal mindset where you go in playing you know, in a place like Pyro. Well, it's not even a criminal mindset. It's a frontiersman mindset. You're going into the wilderness, the survival mindset. So, you know, like, Pyro, I think, is going to be the closest that we're going to get to Rust in space, really. And people need to think of it like that, even though they don't like the idea of Star Citizen having that sort of feature set. It's just the way it is. It's fucking Star Citizen, not Star Care Bear.
One of my favorite games I ever played that had a reputation system was EverQuest. And based on your race or your religious affiliation within the game, you could be kill on sight for specific cities. And that's the way they should do it. You should be neutral, kill on sight, or friendly, right? And then, you know, if you're kill on sight, you could just go to the other, you know, faction or whatever, blow up a whole bunch of ships, and then come back later and be neutral.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, you know, and you see people making those complaints on Spectrum as well, where they're sitting there going, oh, this is bullshit, you know, like, you can be a criminal, you know, bloody for 8 hours, and then, you know, spend an hour in prison, work your sentence off really quickly, and then you come back out and you're redeemed and you're pretty much, you know, a lawful citizen. And nobody, you know, like, nobody remembers. When they say nobody, they mean the NPCs, the AI. The game doesn't remember that you were a highly wanted criminal that murdered a lot of people, and that, you know, going to prison may have reformed you, but it didn't quite achieve that.
You kill 30 people, go to prison, find redemption, and you don't even have a probation officer.
Yeah. Like, I'm okay with that mindset. I'm okay with that mindset where it's like Crusader Security remembers that you just murdered, you know, 100 of their officers and they're pissed. And yeah, sure, you may have served your time, but, you know, when they see you, they're going to shake you down and look for any little thing that they can pin you with. Or, you know, like, they're just like...
I'm okay with them having corrupt cops.
Yeah, like they're just following you around all the time.
Like,
I get that in game already.
You killed my buddy. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They kill you just because you killed their buddy, right? Like, it's, you know...
conveniently, a comm goes down. You get found, and then the comm goes offline, and you're getting lit up. I'd be okay with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That creates immersion beyond what, you know, what you get in, you know, the current iteration of the game. And I think that's something that CIG really needs to be aiming for.
My only request for something like that would be... My only request for something like that, though, is explain what happened, right? Don't let me think it was a bug.
Well, yeah, that's another thing that CIG needs to start working on a lot, is, you know, making things, addressing problems or addressing the in-game actions and making sure that, like, they're distinguishing, like, this was actually something that was done on purpose versus, you know, like, it was just an accident. The AI just started shooting at you because, yeah, they bugged out.
That's potentially low-hanging fruit, right? Like, give us a combat log. It might be potentially disruptive to immersion for some people, I guess, but give me a combat log that tells me my uneaten burrito destroyed my black.
Yeah. Maybe people start getting my fucking name right. Buddy. I got called Agent Lily today after killing a rock miner.
Nice. I think my favorite was nice. My favorite was Aging Lettuce.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite at the moment too. All right, we're going to move on to the next guest. Thank you very much for coming on and being the very first guest. Unfortunately, it seems like Gilded has either gone to shit for me or gone to shit for you. So we'll find out with the next guest. But yeah, man, do you have anything else that you want to say before we sign off? We'll sign you off anyway.
Thanks for having me, and
all the fans to the channel out there, keep watching the videos. There's more to come.
Gilded just came right. I don't know what's going on. All right, thanks for that, Warhead. All right, the next... Cheers, mate. The next guest that we got on, and they should probably join the channel now if they can. They should be able to join the channel now, is another long-time member of Mongrel Squad call, and his name is Hazard. There we go. Hello, Hazard.
On.
Is your mic working? Are you there?
Oh, I hope so. It's lighting up on my screen.
Yes, it's working. Excellent. And you're not crackling like Warhead was. I don't know what's going on there. Gilded things. It's just gilded, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we got to test 2 alphas, right? Star Citizen and Gilded.
Well, you know, in Mongrel Squad, we're all gluttons for punishment. So, you know, like we'll just use jank tech to communicate, just to make things not only harder for us, but to give you guys a chance to be able to bloody fight back, you know. All right.
Okay.
So, Hazard, what are your expectations for 4.0 and Pyro? Like, you know, what do you expect COG to add or do, or how the game goes?
So honestly, for 4.0, when they initially dropped Pyro, I kind of expect it to be like how when they dropped Microtech. You remember when they dropped Microtech, they had all the landing zones, but you couldn't really do anything in New Babbage or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of what that's kind of what I think is going to happen. They'll bring in Pyro, but there's not going to be a whole lot that we can do. It won't be until like 4.1 and beyond that I expect that we'll be able to actually do things at Ruin Station and stuff.
Yeah. What's your thought process behind that, though? Like, what makes you think that?
I mean, I guess I don't have an actual reason for thinking it, except it just seems like what they show us of Pyro, it just seems like it's not as finished as we would expect it to be if they were supposedly close to dropping it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, so just that coupled with what they did with Microtech, it just seems like a reasonable thing. And it's kind of like introducing a big thing, so they don't want to like throw a whole bunch of stuff at the game and break it and then not know where it broke.
Yeah, that's understandable, man. Like, that's one of the problems with building a game like Star Citizen, because it's supposed to be a simulation, and simulations rely on systemic design. So you build a system, and then, you know, like you put a bunch of different systems together, and they're all supposed to interact with each other, and whatever happens, happens. But you kind of have an idea of what's supposed to happen, but those same systems can work in unpredictable ways. And, you know, like as Star Citizen keeps being developed, you can kind of see it where it's like the systems are starting to interact with each other more. You know, I always say, you know, if you do piracy, you're playing the game 6 months ahead of time of everyone else. And, you know, like we kind of see these different systems interacting with each other in ways that players don't expect it to work that way. And I think, I kind of don't like the point that you're making, but not because I think it's a bad point. I think it's because I think you're a little bit too closer to the truth than what I feel comfortable with. Like, like it's gonna be like that, and we're all gonna get, you know, server meshing and Pyro, and we're all gonna go charging in there, and then we're gonna look around and be like, what the fuck is there to do here? And we're all kind of just flying around and, you know, sitting there going, oh, I can't find this, I can't find that, you know, where do I refuel my ship? I ran out of fuel. Where's the closest place to refuel? 2 hours away. And that's one way. It's like, oh my God. You know, you kind of want to hope that COG's got their shit together for it.
I'll be super happy when they drop Pyro and I'm wrong. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, like, I hope you're wrong too, because if you're right, it is going to be a bit of a painful launch. I wouldn't say it's going to be as bad as what we got for 3.18, but yeah, it's a bit like Microtech, where everybody's kind of just there and looking around and going, yeah, this looks kind of cool, but there's nothing here. You know, we'll go explore the planet and fucking find a hole in the terrain and fall through it.
Yeah. People will be flying around a racetrack there.
Yeah. Making their own little racetracks everywhere. What about, what's your thoughts on low-hanging fruit? What do you think the low-hanging fruit that CIG could, pick at for 4.0 or Pyro?
I don't know. I'm real excited for your poo potato that you brought up.
Poo potato? Yeah. Being able to grow, do farming. Do a bit of farming to survive, subsist off the land.
Yeah, but I don't think that's low-hanging fruit, but it would be nice.
Yeah. Well, we've already got the harvestables. So, you already see it in other survival games where they kind of gamify it, and you till a plot and then you fertilize the plot, you put the seeds in the plot, and then, 15 minutes later it's a fully, blooming bit of vegetable or fruit or whatever that you can then harvest and consume or turn into some sort of consumable. And we already know that in the game that we've got now, there are harvestables out there that you can consume and they have some benefits and a lot of them don't. And you can sell some of them too. So I guess, there's always that potential there that there may be, edible harvestables on, some of Pyro's planets that you could try and survive off as you're trying to live off the land. I think there's a point brought up about water being a commodity, a highly prized commodity, which I think should be, something that CIG really hasn't looked at, or if they have, they haven't really placed an importance on it yet. Which I think is, that and, breathable air. That's going to be, that's a currency that is actually a lot more important than water when you think about it in terms of being on hostile planets where you have to wear a spacesuit. So
absolutely, especially with Pyro coming into the game, they could make a commodity like we have distilled spirits, but they could make distilled water, sell it for super cheap in Stanton, and the people in Pyro are desperate for clean water. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially a third world country or star system.
So what type of gameplay are you expecting to happen? Warhead imagines Mad Max, it's the Mad Max of Star Citizen when we get Pyro. What's your mindset on, how Pyro is going to go?
Well, so I think once they drop Pyro, the importance of group gameplay is going to increase dramatically. We'll need some kind of carrier, right? Hopefully they're close to finishing a carrier, because we might need one to drop with Pyro, so that we can ferry ships around. But I think that will increase the need for groups to play together. I also think that there will be a ton of people who play solo still complaining about dying on Spectrum and Pyro. But
yeah.
I also think I actually think with Pyro, if they can get server meshing with Pyro, that also means piracy, I think, is going to get harder. We'll have more targets, but we'll have more pirates to compete with, and bounty hunters will be more available to chase us down. Okay. So I actually think our gameplay loop will increase in difficulty, which I think might be kind of welcome.
I don't know, I imagine, I don't really see piracy getting harder in that aspect. I see it just gameplay for pirates getting harder, because we have to rely on obtaining resources from less than abundant places. I think that's the component that makes piracy harder for us. I'm not sure how many extra pirates we're really going to be competing against, unless they're operating in groups, because a lot of them are operating in very small groups at the moment. You're looking at 4 to 5, maybe 6 if they got a large crew going. Even for us, we aim for 11, but we're still operating with less, purely because we got people who have lives outside the game that, you know, have to do other things. I think, like, I can kind of see where Pyro is the place where you learn how to do piracy. Because you don't really need to worry about law enforcement, it's just about the gangs. You know, and if you're operating in one gang's territory and you're hitting their stuff, they're gonna, you end up with a negative rep with them, and maybe a positive rep with a different gang. But in Stanton, you go and do piracy there, everyone fucking hates you. Maybe the Ninetales like you. Or one of the other local gangs. But you're looking at the situation where it's like, you got a little bit more freedom of movement for piracy in terms of like being able to just go and pirate people or, you know, NPCs. And also maybe other pirates there. I think it's not that there'll be an abundance of targets, it's that you won't really need to fight over targets because the hits won't be as difficult. Whereas over in Stanton, it's like, you know, you want to make sure, like, you'll have that abundance of targets that have a lot of stuff worth taking, but I think you're still going to have to be more selective so that you don't draw too much heat to a specific area, and you'll have to always stay mobile. Whereas in Pyro, I don't think you'd need to worry about that too much. Like, I can see that.
You're probably right.
I can see though, like the bounty hunters, like, you know, piping up a bit more, you know, like making more of an effort coming into Pyro, because it's not really a lawful system, it's lawless, but that doesn't mean that, you know, bounty hunters won't show up. So that's the other side of it, is that I think we'll see the rise of bounty hunters, you know, and this is where they'll start learning that they need to operate in groups in order to be able to succeed in a place like Pyro, and that they can't just be, you know, the Mandalorian with a fucking bucket with a tea slit cutting it, you know, chanting "this is the way," you know, carrying around a fucking what's it called, I forgot the penguin's name, Pico, carrying a Pico in the back of their ship.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of thinking about piracy now. I guess I was kind of focusing on piracy now, how we do most of our piracy in Stanton, and I would expect if most of the players are in Stanton, then most of our piracy ops would remain in Stanton. But, yeah, if it goes to...
Go ahead. Finish. No, you finish yours.
If it does end up going into Pyro a lot, and we end up doing a lot of piracy ops there, then it would not be that much more difficult, if at all.
So my thoughts on this particular point is that for piracy ops in Stanton, that's hard mode for us. So piracy ops in Stanton is hard mode because we've got to deal with UEE plus local law enforcement, plus whatever security firms are operating along the trade lanes that we're hitting. We won't have the freedom of movement that we have now, but we can just fly around and, you know, like, there's an outpost here, I'll just go refuel there. It's like, you know, and this is, I guess, where the reputation system and, you know, like the expectation that reputation matters more really should start, you know, kicking in for Pyro. Where, you know, like showing up at an outpost in an area as a pirate where you're known to have pirated other, you know, like entities. So you're looking at AI and players. They know you're a pirate. You've been doing piracy, and you show up and you go, yeah, I'm here to refuel my ship. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Like, that's what they do now. Yeah, do whatever you want. You know, here you go, mate. Here's your fuel, quantum, hydrogen, sweet. We'll repair your ship too, shine it up. You know, realistically, they should be telling you to fuck off. They shouldn't even be saying that. Like, the guns on the outposts that should be defending it should be firing at you as you're even trying to make an approach. You know, like, we should be cautious and fear operating in places like, you know, Stanton and Terra as pirates, not because, you know, like, we're worried about the consequences of prison, but because there's just, we could run out of resources in a way that you couldn't run out of resources in Pyro. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I hope whenever they bring Pyro in, they do have a more in-depth reputation system, because you know, like in I think it was like 3.16, we were operating a lot out of Arc L1 and Lyria,
Yeah.
and like we killed a lot of people in Lyria, even in comms and stuff, and there's no reason that we should be able to go back to Arc Corp when we're doing that.
Oh yeah, like, what is it? Blackjack Security should have a hard on for us then. They should be like, if you see these guys at all, it doesn't matter if they've got a crime stat or not, just shoot them. Like, they are the type of people that we want here. Chase them away. Lock them down, you know, impound their ships. Bloody, you know, send them on their way. Send them over to Crusader. You know, that sort of mentality. I already asked you about the low-hanging fruit, didn't I? You know, like, what low-hanging fruit do you see? Is there anything else? Like, anything else along those lines? Like, you know, simple, something small, like, you wouldn't expect other people to think of it. Is there anything like that for you?
Well, no, I think a lot of people have talked about just bringing in org functionality into the game instead of in the website. Chris Roberts, I mean, I'm pretty sure he cut his teeth on MMOs, right? Didn't he do Ultima Online, like the first one?
His first game, well, his first game was when he was 12, but I think his first commercially successful game was Wing Commander. But he did work with Richard Garriott. I don't know if he worked on Ultima Online, though.
Well, he's done MMOs in the past, and so he knows how important the like organization type interface is. So I'm kind of surprised it's so heavily reliant on the website, and there's literally nothing in game for your org.
I guess that's the thing, is like, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, like, being in an organization in Star Citizen is literally just a name. That's it. You know, like, if you're in Mongrel Squad, for example, it's like the only real reason why you know that you're in Mongrel Squad isn't because of the RSI website. It's because you join a VoIP server and you're amongst a bunch of people who call themselves Mongrels that are a part of an organization called Mongrel Squad. You could literally delete every single organization, you know, website from the RSI website, and as long as the people who are part of those organizations mentally associate themselves with that group, that's how the organizations survive. Like, that is literally it. The features that CIG has built for organizations on the RSI website and through Spectrum pretty much mean nothing with the way that we are structured and the way that all organizations run. Like, in-game functionality is like necessary to make organizations mean something. And I think that's something that CIG, like, I don't know if they'll aim for that for 4.0 or Pyro, but I think that's just something that they should be, you know, pushing a lot harder towards than what they have been. But, like, you talk about organizations, you know, trying to make them more a bit meaningful. What comes to your mind, and how could CIG make an organization actually mean something in Star Citizen when they're looking at implementing in-game mechanics to support organizations? What's your thoughts on that?
So in other MMOs that I've played, you know, there's always like a guild bank, and you can request things through that bank, right? But I think one thing for us, like our two ICs, I think some kind of organization thing would be, they could put items into the org bank, right? Where we could either purchase them from the bank or borrow them or whatever, instead of people, you know, always needing to worry about getting the right kit at the right time. Like, I think that would just make the lives of our two ICs much easier if they could put items in the bank like that.
Yeah. Like, sharing items, sharing assets. Like, you know, credits are an asset. Our inventory items are an asset. Weapons, you know, ammo, food. medical and all that sort of stuff, those are all assets. You know, our ships, ground vehicles are all assets. I think that's probably the most important point out of that, is like an organization, you know, being able to, you know, pool their assets together and then share those assets amongst their members. That's something that I think that's something reasonable to expect for when we get server meshing. You know, like I always use this term, but you know, like the fish pond stays the same size when we get server meshing. It's just more fish go into it. So this is that time now where it's like having the ability to pull assets together, you know, like being able to charge, you know, org taxes, you know, so that the organization can start building up a, you know, coffer, you know, their war chest, or, you know, like their corporate buddy, can't think of the term now, the corporate treasure chest, you know, like being able to build up those, you know, those assets there so that they can then share it with their organization, fund ventures, fund, you know, wars, fund, you know, like exploration or expeditions, fund projects and all that sort of stuff. You know, being able to do all that stuff and make, you know, the interactions between players more about, you know, cooperation, you know, on a level that doesn't involve having to build a mission. You know, like, hey, we got to get together now, all right, and then we got to go to this one place, make sure you've all accepted the same mission, and, you know, all that sort of shit. Oh, you know, like my game just crashed, blah blah blah. You know, like I've got some fighters and somebody else doesn't have fighters and they want to do some missions. Hey man, you know, hey, just borrow my ships, you know, take them out, but you just make sure you fuel it up when you bring it back.
And all those seem like they're kind of critical for this game.
Yeah, especially going into a system like Pyro. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
I was just saying, especially with the amount of prep time that things require in this game, like just having a way to help people in your organization, it seems so critically important.
Yeah. Like, and being able to have like just somebody who can pull those resources from a common location as opposed to having to go, you know, like all over the system to pick them all up. You know, like, because the way that we structure our, you know, like raider teams and, you know, our Team 2ICs will go out and they'll do their equipment acquisitions and that. Every team handles their own equipment. Well, you know, like that means that if we've got 10 teams, 10 people go to the same location to pick up the same kit, as opposed to just going, hey, one person go to this location to pick up 10 teams worth of kit, bring it back and put it in the org bank. And then you tell your Team 2ICs, hey, all the kit that you guys need is in the org, you know, like pull the equipment pull what you need from it. Don't take any more than what, you know, you're allocated. But instead of them having to go, you know, like, you know, 10 people off to the 4 winds, you've got 1. And that can be their job. Or, you know, even better, you can contract somebody and go, hey, I want, you know, 10 fucking organizations or, you know, 10 teams worth of kit. Bring it over to us. And they bring it to us. We all transfer it into our equipment pool for the organization. And then, you know, the dispersion happens the exact same way. What are your thoughts, though? Like, what are your thoughts on I'm just trying to get my thoughts straight on this one so I phrase the question right. What are your thoughts on how the interactions between, you know, players and the AI, you know, like the impact that we can have on the in-game systems? What are your thoughts on that for 4.0 and Pyro? Because we get Quantum, so, you know, like, what do you think of that particular system? Because the way that it's been explained to us is that, you know, the AI are pretty much running their own thing, you know, running their own thing in the background, and CIG's kind of hinted that we can make small impacts on it. What are your thoughts on like how that would work in a system like Pyro?
So, in a system like Pyro, I think well, most of our AI that we would come across in Pyro should probably be in convoys, and they should probably be combat efficient AIs with a big cargo ship with them. But like the whole quantum thing, like, so I know that there's somewhat in game now for like 3 items, but I kind of am not. I kind of wish we could see them. Like, we have spent a lot of time with snares set up between one location and another, and we've never pulled an NPC out. We've never pulled a fuel runner out, right? Not that we want to spend a lot of time hitting NPCs, but that would be one thing that would be nice to see on occasion. Like, oh, this NPC that was bringing fuel from Area 18 to Arc L1, and we pulled him out of Quantum.
Yeah.
But that never happens.
Well, we're finding NPC caterpillars floating around outposts, and some of them have commodities on them where they're like food, processed food, and scrap.
Right.
And like
those are pretty much mission generated ones, right? Like somebody takes a mission and that generates the caterpillar.
Well, no, from my understanding, it depends on, like, some of them are, but some of them are also just based on the probability volume, where they're trying to create the conditions where there's a hauler that you come across that's under attack, and you know, you save them and they pay you a small amount of credits as gratitude. And I think,
okay, I didn't.
Yeah, like it doesn't happen that often. That's just it. Like, it doesn't happen that often. It used to happen a lot more, but for whatever reason, CIG, you know, moved away from it. And it's kind of that situation there where it's like, it's that lost tech, you know, kind of deal where CIG's implemented something and we're all like, oh yeah, cool. And then the next patch happens, we all get all this new sexy stuff, and then next minute, you know, like, everybody's forgotten about it because they rarely encounter it. Then CIG reintroduces it and everybody's like, what the fuck is this? You know, is this something new? And I think that's a good example there, though, of like something that kind of tries to help build that living universe that you would want to see in a place like, you know, Stanton and Pyro going into 4.0. That's supposed to be influenced by Quantum, but instead of it, you know, like being a single cargo hauler, it's like a convoy. You know, like, for us, the way I look at the NPCs, they're more for training, practice. You know, like, we'll still hit them because there's valuable cargo there, right? But I see it as like practice, because they're gonna, their NPCs, their AI, they're limited within their programming, you know, of what they will actually do. And once you pirate enough of them, you'll learn their patterns, you'll understand what they're going to do next, and then you'll be able to react accordingly.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. All of that.
Yeah. Alright. What else? Have you got any other thoughts about, you know, like, expectations on Pyro? Like, tell us something out of left field. Like, what's something that you don't think anybody else is expecting from Pyro, that you think will, you know, or that you kind of expect when we first get it?
I don't think that there's anything that I'm expecting, or yeah, I don't think there's anything I'm expecting that no one else is expecting. I listen to all the same things that everyone else listens to, so it's not like I have a lot. I am kind of hoping that they introduce another rare material, kind of like how Quantanium is, or maybe they move Quantanium to Pyro, and something that the UEE could exploit Pyro for. You know, there has to be a reason to go there, because otherwise, why would we go there?
Well, you know, the people who are in Pyro, like, from memory, the law of Pyro is that it's already been exploited of the majority of its resources. It's a dangerous system to go to because the star being unstable and it pulses these, you know, highly radioactive waves of a certain type of radiation that you have to hide from, apparently. I don't know if that's still going to be a thing. Maybe, maybe not. But
Yeah.
from my understanding is that
special.
yeah, you got to have special shielding to be able to survive that. But from my understanding is that in comparison to Stanton, Pyro has a lot more natural resources, and that Stanton has a lot, you know, better manufacturing facilities than what Pyro has. And this is why I always, you know, come to the conclusion that I have about Pyro's operating more in Stanton to make profit as opposed to Pyro. Like, everybody's going to come across a Pyro that wants to make, you know, collect raw resources, and then they're going to try and pull it over to Stanton to turn into, you know, manufactured goods. Well, you know, if you're living in Pyro and you're surrounded by all these raw resources, it's, you know, like you can sell, you know, harvest it, sell it, you know, make some credits off of it. But if you're a pirate, it's like, well, we're surrounded by this shit, so why go chasing people down for this stuff that's already here that I could just harvest myself when I could go to the next system over and steal the next level up of those, you know, items that are being converted into from raw materials into, you know, like actual manufactured goods. And I think, like, I think we'll see that shift happen where, like, Stanton becomes very sparsely populated with those higher valued commodities, and those will all shift over towards Pyro, and that's CIG trying to encourage all the miners and that coming across, all the miners and haulers and, you know, people who are interested in industrial gameplay. And then, you know, like, pirates start going over to Stanton to get all the manufactured goods that you just can't get in Pyro, and take it back to Pyro to sell because you'll get it at a higher premium. Like, to me, that makes the most amount of sense.
Right. I don't think it'll happen in 4.0, but I'm really hoping, you know, eventually people will be, you know, like right now we trade raw resources pretty much, like you're trading laranite and titanium, but I'm hoping someday we'll be trading things like components like quantum drives and stuff. You know, Stanton has a ton of quantum drives, or Terra has a ton of quantum drives, but you know, Stanton's short on them. So that would be kind of cool, and then we could
Go ahead, keep going.
well, and then we would be trading the raw resources to the specific areas that build those components.
CIG's talked about that in the past already, like with Quantum. You know, Tony Z actually gave a demonstration when they first revealed Quantum to us, where they, you know, like showed the background simulation that they were running, and, you know, like, I think the example was laranite and some other item being mined, refined, then transported to a manufacturing facility where they'll turn into a power plant. And that's the thing, is that the parts are there, and, you know, part of the reason why I think we haven't got the manufactured goods yet that we can just, you know, collect, that we can trade en masse, is primarily because CIG is waiting to put Quantum in. So, you know, like, for that to be an expectation for 4.0 and Pyro, like, that's not far off the you know, realm of possibility, because that's what we're supposed to get with Quantum. So maybe that ends up being the first iteration of what we get. So yeah, like as Metroximus says, it may be closer than we think. And yeah, fucking dude, I want a pirate caterpillar full of power plants. Those things are so expensive, especially if they're size 3s. Man, but you just be rolling in dough. Although I'm pretty sure our bounties would be a lot higher too. But okay with that.
Yeah. I want a C2 full of TS2s.
Just keep it for ourselves and put it in the org bank. That's what I'd do. I'd be like, TS2s, nah, we're holding on to those. We're going to need them. TS2s, XL1s, and the Atlases. Anyway, all right. Well, Hazard, I'm gonna move you on, mate, because we've been going for close to a good half hour now. Thank you very much for coming along, mate. Do you have any closing words that you got to say or that you want to say before we move on to the next guest?
I guess just that when we get server meshing and we have more players, I look forward to all of the new nicknames we get for you.
Man, I'm hoping one of the things that I'm hoping that we can do is, you know, have aliases set up for our ships for whoever the owner is, because every one of my ships is going to have one of those aliases on every single one of them, just to fuck with people even more. And every time I get a new name, it's going to be on a ship as a new alias. Alrighty. Thank you very much for coming along, Hazard, as the second guest on the Mongrel Court for the first ever audience call-in. Yeah. I'm going to get the next guest to jump in, and that would be Mr. Greedy. Greedy, are you there? Don't tell me he's gone fucking AFK. Where is he? No, I see him. There we go.
You have to get the difference. It's Australia to Brazil.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, my bad. You still got the memory compression going too, so
Like
your voice is a lot deeper. Welcome, Grady. How we doing?
Hello there. I've been great.
Great. That's good to hear. All right, I'm just got to make sure my caller scenes are set up. So, mate, what are your expectations for 4.0 and Pyro?
I really want to see, like, be embarked on a ship, you know? Like, don't have... Because, like, in Pyro, they have, like, one or two places where you can actually, like, stay. But it's not like they're close. They're, like, at least half an hour or maybe more from your position. So I'm thinking more about, like living on a ship, like being like maybe in hopefully a Kraken or something like that, and like we can have like everybody inside and having going do some other stuff. But I really want to see like actually living on a ship. That's something that I'm really excited for, which I don't believe it's gonna happen, but we can all hope.
Well, what about living on a ship excites you though? Like, what's the draw of doing that in
because
Pyro?
it's mostly because like you never know when you're gonna wake up and like what's gonna happen, and because you also have the situation where, well, if you get damage on your ship, you have to figure out how to fix that. So it's not like they're gonna be like every port's gonna repair your ship in Pyro. So if you get actual damage, like you damage a thruster, you damage a thruster. That's it. But this is something that I'm really excited for. I'm really hoping for like a more survival game than what we have right now.
So you're hoping for what, like I wouldn't say, actually a DayZ kind of experience, like would be closer to what you'd be hoping for there. Yeah, because like you can
more like
repair vehicles, replace parts.
Yeah, and like there is also like the fact that like not every fight is the same. Like not everybody's on a pristine ship. So maybe you find a colony with like a missing thruster, and you have like the guy have to account for that, and you can exploit that when you're fighting it. You know, there are many things that can be different from what you normally see.
There's also like along the lines of trying to getting into a fight against somebody because they've got resources that you want to take from them, and you don't want to damage certain parts of their ship, like that Constellation, because it's like, all right, they've got 3 really good engines there, so we don't want to damage those, but we need to disable that ship so that we can then cut those engines off and store them for later.
Maybe there's components on the engines that you need to take to put on your engine to fix it.
Yeah.
Or maybe
so,
like they have a good power plant and your power plant is about to fail. You need to get some, and their power plant will do. There's also that.
yeah. And I think like that's kind of the next step of salvaging, really. But like once again, that I see as something that would really be necessary to improving the survival aspect of like what you'd be encountering in Pyro. Because it's going to be difficult for you to like adopt the survivalist mindset in a location like Pyro if it's like you can't get hold of certain items and you come across a ship that has those items, you can see them, but you can't do anything about it. It's like, all right, sweet. Like you find a derelict carrack and it's got a quantum drive there that it looks like it could work. It looks in way better condition than your current one, and you can't take it out. It's like you're just looking at it right there, and that's what we're dealing with right now. Like that's what we deal with now. And it would be nice to be able to cut that thing out and, like either sell it or put it aside for your own ship.
Yep.
Pirating other people's ships for those resources, because they're all assets.
I feel like it would make a lot of it, because one of the things that I really want to see in Pyro is like the mentality of people being like all legal dropped off completely. So everybody's there for like in a crew or just alone, and everybody is for themselves. So if they see a chance to get something that actually like will increase their survival, they should. But I don't think that's gonna happen because there's a lot of people that really believe that the game needs to be played like a hero.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that I think a lot of people are forgetting is the type of game that Star Citizen's supposed to be. It's, Chris pitched it as like essentially the game to end all games. This is, the future where anything's possible. We're all like spacefaring, citizens, and you go out into the verse and make your own way. And people want to do it their own way. A lot of people suffer from main character syndrome where they just want to be the hero of their own story. There's nothing wrong with that in terms of playing a video game, but when it's done at the expense of other people, where they're sitting there and like, I don't want you to have your gameplay because I just don't like your gameplay because it has a potential of disrupting mine, which is something that pirates have to deal with a lot. Like piracy is disruptive by its very nature. Like you can't do piracy without being disruptive. It doesn't work. But for other professions to sit there and pass judgment that they don't want pirates in the game because it disrupts their gameplay loop, it's like, yeah, no shit, that's what it's supposed to do. So if you're being disrupted and it upsets you, it's like, all right, well, you should be motivated to address that particular issue either by improving your security, getting better, paying for better insurance, by hiring security, because security is a form of insurance. A lot of people don't see it that way, but it is. Being able to talk, play better, join an organization, all those sorts of things that you can do now. But then in a place like Pyro, it means more. Like right now in Stanton, it doesn't mean anything. Like you don't need to be a part of an organization to be a miner in Stanton. You can fly around and do whatever you want. And it doesn't mean much, but in Pyro, you kind of need other people because the mentality should be more focused on survival. Now, Greedy, based on everything that you've seen so far, all the media releases on from CIG about Pyro and that, are you concerned at all about what you've seen and what you're expecting Pyro to be, what you've just described? Are you concerned about CIG kind of making Pyro a bit closer to a Stanton 2.0?
I believe that is a possibility, especially because Pyro will be like the new attraction, and there might be that possibility that they kind of make like at least like placeholder ish places like, oh, there is a maybe a rest and relax in every moon, every planet. So every planet kinda have its own port officer, so you can have like fuel, repair, everything basically, and it kind of defeats the kind of purpose of the whole thing. But they might do that maybe for like 3 or 4 months, just for people to get in there. So there is a possibility there, but I really hope they go all out and don't do anything like that.
Yeah. Like, it's going to be disappointing if it just becomes a bit like a Stanton 2.0. It's like just Stanton but bigger. I don't want it to be like that. I think it should be a lot more desolate, in the sense that you don't really have a lot of resources that you can draw from outside of the main population centers. It's like Ruin Station should be your one-stop shop for everything. And then outside of that, it's like...
Even Ruin Station shouldn't have a lot of like good stuff, and what it has should be overpriced, you know?
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you want a quantum drive here? Pay 3 times.
Yeah, that's right. What I hope to see out of that, though, is a bit of a player economy starting to come up, you know, like that shadow economy. The type of stuff that you see, you know, like with the prison system that that's going to develop. I think players will start banding together on that front. You know, like if they feel like they're getting ripped off too much at Ruin Station, you know, they'll set up their own little flotilla out in the middle of nowhere, because, you know, persistent entity streaming gives us this capability now, but because we're all on different fishbowls, you know, servers, it kind of makes it pointless trying to set them up. But, you know, with the system like server meshing introduced, you have the opportunity now to set up like a flotilla out in the black, and you're just there, you know, like with your little, like, essentially, you know, player run marketplace, and, you know, those who you trust, you can go, hey, we're selling, you know, X amount of items, or, you know, like, we've got these items in, these are the types of shops that we've got here, come along, you know, come on down, you know.
I know, right?
We've got better, yeah, the merchantman, you know, the privateer, those location, you know, those ships are prime for that. And being able to, you know, just go, all right, well, those quantum drives that you're paying 3 times as much over at Ruin, we sell them here for 1.5 times. So, like, you can get a bargain here. There's not as much, so you got to get in here fast. But, you know, we sell it for, you know, cheaper than what they, you know, sell for.
Yep.
That's what I'm really hoping to see.
What else that I was thinking about? Sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah. And we kind of had something like this when, like, CIG decided, okay, we're gonna remove some items from shops, like the FS9, snipers, and all that stuff, like railguns too, because railguns got expensive at some point. So CIG removed those items. What happened? Like, there was an opportunity, and people start doing like Discords and or places that you sell those guns now, right?
Yeah.
So this like the opportunity makes the thief. So if CIG gives the bone, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people will jump in the gun and make those things happen, and make a dynamic system, and make actual content, because this is content. Like, making a shop is a content to the game that you actually gain something from it, right? You run a shop in the game. It is pretty cool.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, we can technically, you know, we can do it now, but being able to set up that shop out in the black, you know, and being able to invite anybody to come to the shop, and having that functionality there where you can sell to other players, you know, have an AI set up that, you know, handles it, just set up a terminal. I don't think we'd see that with 4.0. though. Like, that seems like that would be a bit further along. Like, the manual process of doing it, though, where, like, you and your crew are there, at the time, and it's like, hey, you know, for the next hour, my privateer is going to be here selling, you know, loot
To be
or, you know, items that we've obtained.
to be honest, I would much rather that CIG never implement that. I would much rather have like situations where it's player on player, and you have that like fear that like maybe the guy is here not to bargain and to shoot me, and maybe like it goes like the Star Wars cliche, like there's a negotiation, here's the money, here's the piece, aha, here's the gun, you know. So there should always be like a situation that something like this can happen, you know. I really don't want like to be like, oh, there's a shop in AI, just go there, buy the piece, and that's it, you know. I really want
Yeah.
to see more like player interaction.
I think just on riffing off what Metroxmus is asking there, though, it's more about increasing player agency. Because what we've encountered in Star Citizen a lot lately is like we have agency over what we can do, but the opportunities to employ that agency are few and far between. Primarily because of technological limitations on Star Citizen itself. So, you know, like a player-run shop, for example, is limited in what we can actually do in the current iteration of the game, not because of, you know, missing systems. Like we can transfer items, you know, it's a bit janky, but we can do it. We can transfer credits purely through the MoTrader app. The problem that we have is, you know, getting sellers to buyers. You know, that part there is the most difficult part to pull off right now, and it's because we're all on separate fish bowls, and then you got to try and organize, you know, like the meetup between those two different groups. And then that tension that Greedy was talking about there with regards to, you know, like, are they going to screw me over or not, is something that will, you know, just come about naturally. But, you know, it seems like a lot of what we've talked about so far in this, you know, Mongrel Court, it's about player agency of what, you know, players can do in this game, you know, and trying to get CIG to facilitate that. So, you know, like you're looking at player organization banks, you're looking at player organization equipment pools, you know, ship pools, being able to get players to, you know, like take more responsibility on what they're actually doing in the gameplay space. You know, player run shops. Like, I think some players would like the idea of being able to hand over, you know, the running of a shop over to an AI. And I know that for the privateer, that is CIG's intent. It won't come, you know, in 4.0, but it will come eventually. But we don't need that NPC straight away. The players can do it themselves. We just need the ability to get people together, you know, more easily. That's the problem that we're facing. And I think, you know, like that's why 4.0 is actually a lot more exciting to, you know, especially the PvP community, because we see these opportunities now. We're seeing them now, but we can't, you know, utilize them to their maximum capability. We've got to wait for the next thing to come in. Now, I haven't actually asked any of the other guests about this, and I just realized as we were talking Greedy that I probably should have asked them this question, but what sort of ships are you expecting for 4.0 and Pyro?
You mean like new concepts and stuff like that, or ships that they have in the pipeline that they haven't made?
I'd say both. Let's start with what they've got in the pipeline.
Okay, in the pipeline, I pray every night for the Kraken, of course.
Yep.
Let me see here. The Bano is already done, almost, I think, so it doesn't really matter.
The Merchantman.
The Merchantman, yes. Let me think here. There is the one that everybody talks about when talking about Pyro, the one that looks like a beach lander. I forgot the name.
Oh, the Liberator.
The Liberator, yeah.
Yep, I've got one of those.
The Legionnaire? No, no, it's not gonna happen. Let me see. I would like to see a bigger mining ship, like between the mole and the
Ryan?
isn't it the Orion? Orion?
Yeah, yeah,
Orion?
yeah. It's Ryan.
Yeah, because one of the things that I really want to see like in Pyro is like raids, quote unquote. Like maybe you find a field of rocks that is like not 10 but like 100 rocks, and like you set place there like with a refinery ship, everything there, and like you stay there like for hours, maybe days in an org, and like there is the chance that a pirate group finds you on that big pile, and the pirate group just prepares to attack you, you know. So there is like a kind of a raid situation there. So I'm feeling like having more industrial ships that can go through like more rocks, more maybe more rock mining, more stuff like that would be very interesting in a situation like that. So like a better mining ship, maybe a bigger refinery ship, like maybe one that is twice the size of the expense.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more stuff like that, you know, more oriented to big org gameplay with gameplay and things that like take time and you can like stay there for a long time to fill it up and to be happen to be a target for someone. You know, maybe like there is a situation where like the miner is there like in this big field and the pirate is watching it. Maybe the pirate has a nurse, a guy watching over the place, seeing like how many boxes they have, so they're scouting around, and like the pirates are ready to attack, and the bounty hunters are right on top, just waiting for it to happen, so they can go in and grab the pirates. So I really want to see a lot of like this grand raid system, like where everybody kinda does everything dynamically. So the more ships like that, the better, in my opinion.
Okay. So
What else? What else?
we kind of blended those two topics together, like, you know, what you wanted to see and, well, you know, what's in the pipeline that we know of and kind of what you want to see. Like, you want to see a larger mining ship, but also, like, essentially you want to see the types of ships that contribute to player-driven, you know, like, operations. So a mining operation is the example here. So, you know, like, a player organization finding an asteroid field that's worth mining. They go in there and they start mining. They got their prospectors, moles, you know, maybe even a larger ship, as you suggested, a larger mining ship that's between the mole and the Orion. Being able to go in there and start mining everything, refining it. You know, so you're looking at what, the Odyssey and the Expanse, because which one? The Odyssey is the
Odyssey can't.
Well, the Odyssey can do.
About the quantum, right?
Was it mining, and it could do some limited refining. I think it was for quantum fuel though.
If I remember correctly from the Q&A, the Odyssey can only make fuel for itself. So
yeah.
I don't think the Odyssey would be a good ship for that.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe.
I'll have to,
I don't know.
But yeah, like, I guess the point kind of stands though still, where like your focus there is trying to, I guess, create the first step in a chain of actions or potential actions where, you know, the industrialists go out, they're doing their thing, collecting those resources, the pirates find them, and they're like, all right, we're going to hit these guys, but we're going to wait for the right moment. And the bounty hunting crew that's, you know, looking for these pirates are kind of like, all right, we know that this particular target here, like these miners here, are a juicy target for these pirates, so we're going to wait, and we're going to wait for those pirates to strike. And, you know, like, I guess creating that potential dynamic there, and not having any, you know, AI involved. So going back to that whole mentality of, you know, the system, you know, systemic design, everything being designed, you know, and created in isolation, but with the mindset of being combined together, so that you know, when you put it all together, you know, you get gameplay. What about, you kind of already touched on, you know, things that you think should be brought in. So like a larger mining ship that's bigger than a mole, smaller than a Orion. Are there any other ships that you can think of like that? Like, you know, along those lines?
I
Like
would like
another,
to see a big QED ship.
a big QED ship?
I would like to see a big QED ship, like maybe a Carrack variant with a QED. That would be great.
I
Like
just
a
put
big QED.
create a module for the Galaxy. And piss off all the bloody Retaliator owners again.
I mean, it could be a Retaliator, it could be a Galaxy, it could be a sorry, a Carrack, whatever it is. Like, I would just want a bubble that is like 1,000 kilometers, not maybe not 1,000, but like 100, 200 kilometers, and like you have like to scramble the mantis to go around to get the target. So you have kind of like a big situation, like where the snare is. Well, yes, we know it's like 100 kilometers there, so it's kind of like an interception of the target. That would be really interesting. It would be really, really interesting. I really want to see something like that.
Yeah, like COG has actually talked about why they haven't done it yet. And the main reason for it was you wouldn't be able to get to the target fast enough. That was their concern. Was that you would be able to, you quantum interdict somebody on the edge of the bubble. So you're looking at like 90 kilometers away, and it's like, all right, now you got to get to the ship before they leave the bubble. And you got to be able to detect them and all that sort of stuff. I think, like, there is potential for gameplay there. Myself, personally, I'm not a big fan of how the current quantum interdiction mechanics work anyway. I think it's a bit too static and not involved with what players, like, it's not dynamic enough for my liking. It doesn't feel like it's interactive enough. Like, it doesn't feel like much of a chase. You're not chasing down your prey. It's kind of like you kind of just sit there and wait for them to show up, and then you strike, and that's it. And that's, to me, that's kind of boring. Yeah, like fishing, I know some people like it, but I'm just like, I want to be the cheetah. I want to be the cheetah that's chasing down the antelope. I want to be, running them down. That's what I want to do as a pirate.
Inside the water with the harpoon gun.
Yeah.
Not fishing.
Yeah, that's right. Go down spearfishing for the fish.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the super chat there, Blake. But yeah, like, I always liked Elite Dangerous's interdiction mechanic. That to me was like, if they put that in Star Citizen, I'd actually be really happy with that. Because it provides the play and counterplay.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in Elite Dangerous that I like and I dislike, but like the interdiction I think is one of the best.
Yeah.
I just don't know how it would work in Star Citizen.
Did I ask you about low-hanging fruit? I can't remember off the top of my head.
No.
No? So what do you think is low-hanging fruit that CIG could grasp at for Pyro and 4.0?
By low-hanging fruit, you mean like something like super low priority, right?
No,
Or
like
something super easy to implement.
super easy to implement. So it's like, something that would improve the gameplay that would be considered super easy to implement, like tracking beacons. Like people sit there and go, oh no, it's going to be complex. And it's like, well, not really, because you've already got mission item markers. So, like what's stopping CIG from implementing tracking beacons as an item that you can purchase and put on a ship?
I would love tracking beacons, yeah. That would be great. But let me think about something here real quick. I don't think I have anything like super easy to implement, like on the top of my head. I don't think I have one.
Alright, here's another question
thinking,
I
like,
didn't ask anyone. Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Keep going.
I was actually going to move on to the next point, but it sounded like you just had something there.
No. Like I have an idea. Like I really want to see like credits in the game, so we move on from actually being like always in the bank and having like ships like Star Wars. So something like that would be great, but I wouldn't imagine like they making it for pirate.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if they're actually planning on doing that, because right now it's just numbers, and I don't know if they'll actually physicalize them. Technically, though, like, gems. Anything is a currency if it's valuable enough. And, like you look at prison and you look at gems, people are like, oh, if they get rid of merit trading in prison, then, like it's going to make prison a lot more harder. And it's like, no, it's not. You just change the currency. So, all right.
if you think about it, like making like physicalized money wouldn't be that hard, because it's just an item that has the price of maybe 100 credits. So every ship is 100 credits, like, so you can sell it for 100 credits and receive it for 100 credits. So it would be something like, I don't imagine it being hard. So I mean, like, that would be my low hanging fruit if I have to say.
Okay. What's it like? What do you expect CIG to put into 4.0/Pyro? Like, actually, no. Let's rephrase that to something. What do you think 4.0 or Pyro needs to succeed in your mind?
I mean, I believe that to succeed, CIG has to drop the whole system like as they want it, or at least like 80% as they want it. Because if we ever going to have the whole game, CIG needs to get faster. Like before, like making a planet took like 3 months, then took a month, then now a moon is like a day. So like a system should take less than a year, and it should be growing smaller every time they do it. Because otherwise, if like they say, okay, this is Pyro, that's like only 20%, like you have the planets there, you have a few stations, but that's it. That would be really bad, because that means that they are not evolving and getting faster at doing what they need to do to get 100 systems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is concerning. I think that is essential. Like, they start, we won't really see it with Pyro, but like being able to, like get it almost finished on release, so that when it gets put in our hands, it's pretty much done, and they're like, all right, now we're moving on to the next one. In my mind, like, yeah, they need to push for that in terms of functionality, because they said 100 systems. There's technically more. There's unnamed systems, unknown systems that we've never heard about, never seen, that players are supposed to be able to discover, name, and like report or not, and try and hide it. Those are supposed to exist too, and like none of that's being built outside of the concept. Like the Arc star map is the closest that we've got to a complete fucking set of systems.
Isn't it like Nyx that has like 3 unmanned planet and like only Levski?
Yeah, like you've got
Like
an asteroid field
like
and a couple of planets, or small planets.
Yeah, but doesn't have anything special. Like a system like that should take them like a month at most to make, and that's what I'm concerned. Like if that system should take like a year, how will it be like Terra? How will it be like Earth? Sol, sorry, sir, Sol. So how will be like that those systems? So CIG needs to get faster, so like we actually get any hope to get the project going. Otherwise we are doomed. Basically, that's what I feel.
100%. I think CIG knows about that, and like they've opened up the Montreal office, which is, it appears like they're the ones that are going to be the ones banging out these systems more frequently. So we might see it. We might see it happening where like within the same year that we got Pyro, we get Nyx. Because it sounds like we're getting Pyro next year.
Like if like they drop Pyro, then they drop a 0.1 patch, or like a big patch that is nothing, like more gameplay, and like the packs right next to that, like 2 patches from Pyro, they say here Nyx. That would be like fantastic. That would like increase like the hopes of everybody that CIG can deliver the game, because that would be like what 6 months next small system go. That would be really amazing. That would be like my expectation for CIG like after 4.0.
Yeah, like they really do need to be banging out those systems a lot faster to build confidence in the community, because it bothers me that they keep having to go back over things. You know, like, oh, we're going back over this now, we're going back over that. It's like, for fuck's sakes. All right. Unfortunately, the next guest has to drop out because of real life stuff that's going on. So, Greedy, it looks like the other two guests that were hoping to jump on have disappeared as well. We're coming up on pretty much 2 hours for the stream anyway, so Greedy, I think I'll end our discussion there. Thank you very much for coming along, mate. I'll end our discussion there and look at closing off the stream. But before you go, do you have anything else that you want to say?
No mercy.
No mercy.
Let's get no mercy, no exceptions. Let's go.
Nice. I like it. The Mongrel Squad red flag announcement. No mercy. Yeah. No quarter, no mercy, no exceptions. All right, thanks a lot, Greedy. Thanks for coming along, man. Really appreciate you coming in for this particular topic. And I am going to change scenes from this one to this one. Yeah, so was I, Blake, but unfortunately, they had real life stuff that they needed to get done, so, and yeah, it is what it is. If I'd known, I would have, probably would have rearranged the queue, but, you know, things happen. This is the first time that, this was the first audience call-in that we're doing, but, you know, I like the format. I like the format. Hopefully you guys did too. I'm probably going to try and make this a bit more frequent, just to get more input on different topics of discussion. Once again, this particular Mongrel Court wasn't really too focused on something that you would expect out of piracy gameplay, but the idea behind what we're doing here is to try and engage more of the community to discuss wider gameplay topics in Star Citizen. And what we'll probably end up dealing with here is, as we do more of these types of discussions and more of these types of audience call-ins, trying to get a more diverse range of opinions and thought processes, and trying to encourage more people to get involved with it that, you know, aren't pirates. Because one of the big things that I've always been about, especially in a game like Star Citizen, is the emergent gameplay side of things, and, you know, trying to extract more out of the game without, you know, CIG adding more stuff to the game itself. You know, CIG just putting stuff in there, you know, like the systemic design, putting all the mechanics in, and then leaving us to, you know, like make of it what we, you know, can. You know, that sandbox element that we're all looking for. But, you know, this was the very first audience call-in, so, you know, like, the plan was that the callers were only going to get 5 to 10 minutes. I was expecting a few more people. There actually was a few more people, but unfortunately they didn't show up, so I let the current callers go a little bit over the time. I was trying to keep them around the 30-minute mark, 20 to 30-minute mark, depending on how the conversation was going. We had some really good conversations going. Unfortunately, that also meant that, those conversations may have gone for more than 30 minutes. But, yeah, it's a learning process. I don't know what the next topic for the Mongrel Court is going to be. Honestly, I was considering the state of 318, I didn't want to spend a Mongrel Court whinging about that. I've done enough of that on the Mongrel Squad reactions and rant stream. I wanted to focus on something a bit more positive, looking forward towards things that we can look forward to in the game when it's a bit more realized. Yeah. Anyway, next Mongrel Court is going to be in April, third week of April. It's the third Saturday of every month for the rest of the world. It's actually early Sunday morning for me. But not sure what the topic is going to be. More than likely it's going to be about, something to do with 318, because by that stage we should have the 0.1 patch and be able to play a lot more of 318 and have a bit more of an experience with it and be able to sit there and talk about our experiences with 318 and, what else we can make of it. That's it for this stream, guys. Thank you very much for coming along. I look forward to seeing you all either at the next Mongrel Court or at the next Mongrel Squad reactions and rant stream, which is going to be this coming Tuesday for all of you. Yeah, it's Wednesday morning for me there. It's on 420. We may do one on drugs then. The smuggling and drugs. We might do it on that. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much. I'll catch you all later.